Most people spend their lives fighting what is. Something happens, they complain, plans fall apart, they get angry. Life doesn't go the way they want, and they blame others, the system, the universe. Anything but the thing itself. You lose a job, a relationship ends, your health breaks down. The first reaction is resistance. Why did this happen? Who's at fault? How do I undo it? But that instinct, resisting what has already happened, is the beginning of a deeper kind of suffering. Not the pain itself, but the war you start with reality. A man gets fired and spends months obsessing over why it wasn't fair. A woman gets sick and spends years resenting her body. A student fails an exam and blames the teacher, the institution, the environment, never the event itself. The problem is no longer what occurred, but how we keep telling ourselves it shouldn't have happened. This reaction is everywhere. It's built into modern culture. Self-help slogans tell us we're meant for more. Motivational content insists that we should never settle. Social media constantly shows us lives we think we should have. So when reality doesn't match the image, resistance kicks in. Quietly, we reject the life we have, and yet nothing changes. The job loss still happened. The illness is still real. The breakup still stands. But now, added on top of it, is mental weight. Rumination, frustration, anxiety, outrage. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, saw this over 2,000 years ago. He said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them." In other words, the event doesn't break you. Your story about the event does. We believe we're reacting to life, but we're actually reacting to our interpretation of life. The facts don't hurt as much as the commentary we run on top of them. And so the pain loops. We keep telling ourselves that what happened shouldn't have, that we deserve better, that life has made a mistake. And the more we believe that, the more bitter we become. Acceptance, for most, is the end goal. Let it go. Move on. Try not to think about it, but even that is limited, because passive acceptance is just saying, "I won't fight this," while still secretly wishing it had been different. Stoicism challenges that. It says, stop reacting, start aligning. Control what you can. Let go of the rest. Simple but powerful. Then Nietzsche takes it even further. He doesn't just say, accept your fate. He says, love it. Not because it's good, not because it feels nice, but because it is yours. Because it is real, because it is necessary. He called it Amor Fati, love of fate. To most people, this sounds insane. Why should anyone love failure? Why should you welcome pain, embrace rejection, or find meaning in tragedy? Because the alternative is denial. And denial of reality always comes at a price. Acceptance is surviving what happens. Amor Fati is using it, bending it, building something with it. And in a world where most people resist life until their final breath, there's something almost revolutionary about not just accepting the worst moments, but saying yes to them. Yes, this happened. Yes, it was hard. But yes, I will take it. Yes, I will make something with it. Not because you wanted it, but because it was given to you. And how you respond is the only part that ever belonged to you anyway. Most people try to change the world before they've learned to govern their own thoughts. They try to fix external problems while ignoring internal patterns. But over 2,000 years ago, a group of thinkers realized that control is a trap, because most of what we try to fix is outside our reach. One of them was Epictetus. Born into slavery, he had no control over his early life. His body was broken, his rights taken, his freedom denied. But in that condition, he saw something few people ever do, that while the world can be taken from you, your reason, your judgment, your mind can't. Epictetus taught what he called the dichotomy of control. There are only two types of things, the ones you can influence and the ones you can't. That's it. Everything else is a distraction. You can't stop the rain, but you can carry an umbrella. You can't stop people from judging you, but you can choose not to judge yourself. You can't stop the pain, but you can decide what it means. He said that the only real power is self-control, because you don't get to decide what happens to you. You only decide how you see it. And that's the only place your energy belongs. This wasn't just theory. These ideas were tested in some of the worst conditions. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire surrounded by war, disease, betrayal, and chaos. He lost children, faced plagues, watched his best friend turn against him, and yet he wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." He didn't mean this as metaphor. He lived it. He trained his mind to turn each challenge into fuel. If something went wrong, it became material for growth. If someone failed him, it became an opportunity to lead better. If his plans collapsed, he would ask what the new path was showing him. To Marcus, it wasn't about forcing life to meet your expectations. It was about preparing your mind to meet life as it is. The Stoics taught that freedom comes from focus. You stop wasting time wishing things were different. You stop asking why it happened, and start asking what to do with it. This is the shift. Life stops being something you fight. It becomes something you work with. Every situation becomes material. Not good or bad, just useful or wasted. A canceled trip, a broken deal, a missed goal. Most people see these as failures. The Stoic sees them as training. You're always being trained. Trained to let go, trained to adjust, trained to act with reason when you want to react with emotion. Marcus wrote to himself constantly, not to sound wise, but to keep his mind sharp. To remember that everything is temporary, that fame fades, that health declines, that power disappears. But how you meet each moment, that's permanent. This isn't passive. Stoicism isn't about giving up. It's about choosing your battles wisely. Instead of fighting the storm, you learn to steer through it. You become harder to disturb, quicker to respond, slower to blame. Because the world is random, plans break, people change, accidents happen. But if your peace depends on things outside your command, you'll never hold it for long. Control what you can. Let go of the rest, not as a slogan, as a strategy. The Stoics believe that the highest strength isn't in controlling others, it's in governing yourself. The person who can't be shaken by fortune. The one who doesn't beg the world to be different. That's who they aim to be. And when you start thinking like this, the world stops being your enemy. Every event becomes a chance. Every obstacle becomes something to use. And life itself becomes a forge. Not because it gives you what you want, but because it gives you exactly what you need to become someone who no longer depends on what happens. He spent most of his life in pain. Headaches that left him blind, nausea that lasted for days, a spine that wouldn't support him, organs that failed too early. He walked alone, often moved from town to town, unable to keep friendships. His letters became shorter, more erratic. Eventually, his mind gave out. This was Friedrich Nietzsche, a man who knew more suffering than most, yet gave the world an idea so powerful, it rewired how people think about life. Amor Fati, Latin for love of fate. He didn't say accept it, he didn't say tolerate it. He said love it. Want nothing to be different. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not even in your worst moments. That's what he called greatness. Not in achievement, but in the ability to say yes to everything. The idea wasn't abstract, it came from his own experience. Sick, rejected, poor, forgotten. He had every reason to give up, but instead, he created a philosophy that challenged people to stop asking the world to change and start asking how to meet it, exactly as it is. He used a thought experiment to explain this. Eternal recurrence. Imagine living your life again and again. No edits, no improvements. Every mistake, every regret, every decision exactly the same. Played back on loop, forever. Most people panic at the idea. They think of everything they wish they hadn't done. The things they said, the things they didn't. They imagine the same pain, the same boredom, the same problems, repeating endlessly. And they reject it. But Nietzsche said this is the test. If you say no, if you feel dread, then something is wrong. You're not living in a way that affirms life. You're still trying to escape it. You're still resisting. But if you could say yes, if you could look at your life and repeat it forever, not because it was perfect, but because it was yours. That's Amor Fati. That's power. Most people wait for things to go well before they approve of life. Nietzsche said flip it. Approve first. Embrace the worst parts. Don't ask if they were fair. Ask if they were necessary. He believed that strength doesn't come from comfort, it comes from friction. If life is smooth, you don't grow. If everything goes your way, you stay weak. But when things go wrong, when the ground breaks, that's the moment to act. He said, If you could take your pain, your loss, your past, and not just get through it, but use it, then you become someone who can't be broken. Because you've stopped needing things to be easy. You've stopped waiting for conditions. You've stopped depending on life going your way. This idea, Amor Fati, is the answer to suffering without bitterness. It means turning obstacles into tools, turning problems into steps. It's not optimism. It's not denial. It's discipline. Choosing to stand with reality no matter what it gives you. Nietzsche never claimed this was easy. He didn't expect people to get it right overnight. But he knew the cost of the opposite. He watched people spend their lives in resentment, blaming their past, regretting their choices, hoping the future will save them. He said, "No one is coming. Nothing's owed to you. What happened, happened. What matters now is what you do with it." Every moment is raw material. The pain, the confusion, the rejection, it's all fuel. He wrote that the greatest individual is the one who says, "This is my life, all of it. I don't want it changed. I want it repeated, as it was." That's not arrogance, that's control. Amor Fati isn't an escape, it's a return to the exact thing you were trying to avoid. But this time you face it, and you say, "Yes, this too. Let it come." This is how he lived, and it's how he died. No grand send-off, no redemption arc, just silence, but the work survived. The idea lived on. Because once you stop waiting for the perfect life, you can start building the real one. Loving your fate doesn't mean giving up. It's not passive, it's not silence, it's a kind of rebellion, but not the kind most people recognize. Most fight the world by complaining, resisting, escaping. Amor Fati flips that. You fight by accepting, then using everything that happens as material. You refuse despair by refusing to waste what life gives you. When nothing can be changed, most people quit. But some change themselves. That's the core of Amor Fati. You stop asking life to be different and instead ask, who can I become because of this? Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist. He was taken to a concentration camp during World War II. He lost his family. He lost his home. Every day, people around him were beaten, starved, killed. Nothing could be controlled. He had every reason to shut down, but instead, he looked for meaning. In the middle of one of the worst environments imaginable, he started writing. He began observing the prisoners, how some collapsed while others held on. What separated them? It wasn't strength. It wasn't intelligence. It was the ability to take suffering and give it meaning. He wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." He survived. He published his findings. He taught that humans aren't destroyed by suffering itself, but by the loss of meaning. The moment you see that pain can serve a purpose, it changes what the pain is. It's no longer just hurt, it becomes a signal, a task, a direction. This is Amor Fati in practice. You don't wait for conditions to improve. You make use of them as they are. You stop treating struggle as a mistake and begin to treat it as a message. Nietzsche described it as fire. The strongest person is the one who turns every obstacle into fuel. Not just tolerates the situation, but transforms it. He wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. Everything means everything, not just inconvenience, not just small setbacks." He meant the deepest losses, the worst failures, the greatest pressure. If it gets thrown in, it burns. And what comes out is light, that's the standard. Don't just bear the pain, use it. Don't just last through difficulty. Turn it into something else. That's the work. And it's hard. Because Amor Fati asks you to stop hoping for a different life. It asks you to stop imagining better timing. No redo. No revision. Just this moment, and what you choose to do with it. You lose your job. Most people panic. Amor Fati says, "Good. Now you're free to redirect. Now you get to build something new. Use the time. Use the lessons. Don't waste it on regret. You get betrayed. Most stay bitter." Amor Fati says, learn the pattern. Strengthen your judgment. Cut what needs to be cut. Move forward faster. You get sick. Most people wish it away. Amor Fati says, face it. Adapt. Focus. What matters becomes clearer. Your energy becomes sharper. It doesn't mean you like what happened. It means you accept that it did, and you respond with purpose, not by enduring, but by transcending. Most people spend their lives dodging pain. They avoid hard truths. They chase comfort. But the result is fragility. Every obstacle becomes a reason to stop. Amor Fati creates the opposite. You become someone who doesn't rely on luck. You stop asking for life to be fair. Because fairness was never part of the equation, use is. What can you use? That's the question. Every failure has information. Every ending has space. Every hardship forces clarity. And the people who learn to work with these things build strength that can't be taken away. Because if you need life to go well to be well, you'll always be a step behind. You'll always be at the mercy of your surroundings. But if you choose to love what is, every event, every mistake, every outcome, you stop reacting and start creating. And once you reach that point, life no longer breaks you. It builds you. Most ideas stay in books. Amor Fati only works if it becomes part of how you live. It's not a theory, it's a habit. Built day by day, one decision at a time. It starts with mental rehearsal. The Stoics called it premeditatio malorum, thinking through what could go wrong before it does. Not to scare yourself, but to prepare. Instead of wishing for perfect outcomes, you train for reality. You imagine the job loss, the failure, the mistake, the loss. Not in panic, but in clarity. So when things do go wrong, you're not surprised. You've already seen this, you've already met it, so now you meet it again, with calm. This isn't pessimism, it's strategy. Modern life avoids this. People want comfort, distraction, quick relief. But philosophy says the better approach is to confront what might happen. Not once, but every day. That's how you build the muscle to face difficulty. Not just with resistance, but with readiness. Then comes reflection. Not in your head, but in writing. The Stoics wrote daily. They reviewed their day. What happened, what they did right, what they missed, what life gave them, and what they gave back. Journaling like this isn't about venting. It's about tracking your thinking. You write, what went wrong today? What did I expect? What did I learn? You stop repeating the same patterns because you're not ignoring them anymore. You're studying them. You're collecting feedback from your own experience. Slowly, patterns emerge. The same mistake keeps showing up, the same trigger, the same excuse. You see it, and once you see it, you can change it. It's not about judgment, it's about training. Every bad day becomes data. Every mistake becomes a note. This isn't therapy, it's practice. You're learning how to live better by paying attention. After that, you shift how you see obstacles. Instead of asking why this happened to you, you ask, what is this building? Every time something hard happens, treat it as a test, a workout. If you want patience, expect delay. If you want strength, expect pressure. If you want wisdom, expect confusion. Nothing's random. It's all material. This framing matters, because most people collapse under stress. But that's because they don't know what stress is for. It's not here to hurt you. It's here to train you. So if something pushes back, don't quit. Push forward. That's how you get stronger. Every time you fail, you add a rep. Every time you lose, you build grit. This is how Amor Fati becomes a system. You prepare mentally. You reflect clearly. You train daily. But there's one more part. You say yes. Not when things are easy, not when it goes your way, but especially when it doesn't. That's the real practice. Something breaks. Something ends. Something interrupts your plans. Say, I chose this. Not because you planned it, but because you accept it. This isn't submission, it's power. When you say, I chose this, you turn reaction into action. You reclaim the moment. You become an active part of what's happening. You stop separating yourself from life. You stop waiting for different conditions. This becomes your mindset, not by accident, but by habit. Rehearse the worst. Write it down, reframe every test, and say yes, every time. Eventually, you don't need things to change anymore. You just use them. That's Amor Fati in practice, and that's how it moves from an idea to a way of life. A common question is this: so I'm just supposed to like suffering? The answer is no. Amor Fati isn't about enjoyment. It's about function. The goal isn't to feel good about pain. The goal is to use it, to convert it. You don't celebrate loss. You find what it teaches. You don't ask for failure. But when it shows up, you don't waste it. Meaning is the shift. Without it, you don't grow. Amor Fati is the Pain stays pain. It drains. It breaks. But with meaning, pain transforms. It points. It directs. It forces a new way forward. Amor Fati is about finding that line, not after everything is over, but inside it. While it's happening, that's the skill, not avoidance, not approval, use. Then there's the question of injustice. What about evil? What about cruelty? Are you supposed to just accept that? No. Stoicism and Nietzsche never asked for that. They never justified it. Amor Fati doesn't say wrong is right. It doesn't tell you to stop thinking. It asks, what now? The world includes cruelty. It includes abuse, oppression, lies, failure of systems. Amor Fati doesn't excuse it, it faces it. But instead of reacting with just outrage or despair or shock, it asks, what can be done? What can I build? How can I act? If you see injustice, Amor Fati doesn't tell you to accept the structure. It tells you to accept that you're here and now you have a choice. Speak, build, repair, resist. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. People confuse this with toxic positivity. They think Amor Fati is about ignoring pain, pretending things are fine. But Amor Fati doesn't ignore anything. It doesn't ask you to be cheerful. It asks you to be responsible, not in mood, in mindset. This isn't sugarcoating, it's strategy. When you pretend everything is good, you stay blind. That's not Amor Fati, that's denial. Amor Fati sees everything clearly. The loss, the injustice, the failure. But it refuses to stop there. It refuses to collapse. It says, this happened. And now, I work. It's not comfort. It's armor, built from thinking, from practice, from facing what most people run from. Most wait for peace to feel strong. Amor Fati builds strength first, so you're ready when peace isn't there. There's no pretending in it, no escape, no sugar. Only the question, how will I use this? Not later, now. And when you live this way, things change. Not outside, inside. You stop waiting for conditions. You stop blaming the world. You stop folding under pressure because you don't need easy anymore. You just need real. You just need the next step. That's not toxic. That's clarity. That's power. There's a point where Amor Fati becomes more than a reaction. It becomes identity. It's not about handling pain anymore. It's about using it as standard practice. When that switch happens, something changes. You stop fearing loss. You stop fearing pressure. You stop fearing what breaks. Because once you've trained your mind to accept anything, you become hard to stop. The same things that crush others now sharpen you. You don't just survive hits. You build from them. You start expecting problems and shaping them into something useful. That's anti-fragility, not durability, not toughness, something else. Fragile things break. Strong things resist. But the anti-fragile gain from disorder. The storm becomes your source of strength. The chaos trains you. That's what Amor Fati does. It turns harm into energy. It makes you better through the very things that would usually take people down. Think of the phoenix. It doesn't avoid fire. It uses it. Burned. Reborn. That's not metaphor. That's application. Every event that cuts, bends, or strains you is now a forge. Not every mistake is bad. Not every setback is waste. You step in, get hit, adjust, rebuild. You lose a job. You lose status. You lose progress. But you don't fold. You ask, what now? That moment is the hinge. Because while most people are waiting for stability to return, you're already turning problems into tools. That's what makes someone anti-fragile. You see it in real life. A business fails. But the founder studies the collapse, refines the plan, launches again. This time, leaner, sharper. An athlete suffers injury. But instead of quitting, they train smarter. They build technique. They come back stronger. A prisoner spends decades in solitary. But instead of losing their mind, they discipline it. Read, think, train. And when they leave, they teach. It's not the situation that builds power. It's the framing. The same event can either shut someone down or rebuild them with sharper clarity. The ones who grow through it are not lucky. They're using Amor Fati. They don't ask life to be gentle. They ask themselves to become stronger. There's no secret technique. It's not motivation, it's structure. You train to treat every stress as training, every failure as data, Every moment of pressure as a test you asked for. So the worse it gets, the more you develop, the more it takes, the more you gain. Amor Fati doesn't give you control over what happens, but it gives you control over how it shapes you. That's what makes it unbeatable. Because you stop needing life to go a certain way. You just use what shows up. This isn't theory. This is how real transformation happens. You become the kind of person that no longer fears change because you've practiced growing inside it. You no longer seek comfort because discomfort is what forms the core. You've moved past just coping. You've turned the entire process into strength. That's Amor Fati, fully applied. That's anti-fragile. What if nothing was a mistake? Not the failure, not the loss, not even the pain you still think about. What if all of it was part of the same material that, when shaped right, builds the person you're supposed to be? You've seen what happens when you resist. You've seen what changes when you accept. But this goes further. Amor Fati asks a harder question. What if even the worst day of your life carried something inside it? Not comfort, not relief, but a seed, a tool, something only visible after you stop asking why and start asking what now. That shift changes the framework. It moves you from reaction to creation. You stop waiting for better moments. You use this one, even if it's hard, even if you don't like it, because somewhere in it, there's something to build with. Nietzsche said, "Become who you are. Do not merely bear what is necessary, but love it." That isn't poetry. That's process. It's a system for using everything. A mindset that doesn't break under pressure, but adapts. This is the work. Simple, but not easy. Try it today. Pick one thing you rejected yesterday. An event, a memory, a thought. And say yes to it. Not because you like it, but because you'll use it. That's Amor Fati. Not comfort, not peace, but freedom. Thank you for following us on today's episode. Do well to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.